All right. Hey, everybody. Good to see you. Glad that you're here with me. We are going to be practicing multiple choice questions tonight, baby. That's what we're going to be doing. And I just got to tell you right off the bat, this ain't going to be sexy. We're just going to be working some questions. Ain't no fast, entertaining editing. But if you're struggling with multiple choice questions, then this is the place for you to be. And I promise you that if you stick with me through this and watch how I do a multiple choice question, watch how I interpret it, and watch how I try to make sense of the questions and the answers, this is really going to help you. Because at the end of the day, the question that I've been getting the most, this multiple choice questions. Video probably was to actually give you questions for us to work through. But before we get into that, let me say hello to all the people who are going to be watching this on the replay. And we'll blitz through these in 30 seconds, and then we'll get right to it because we don't got no time to waste. Exams are a week, 10 days away. Let's see, what are we? This is AP World History, so yeah, we're roughly a week away. So no, you guys are 10 days away. Don't listen to me. You know when it is. Okay, so number one, if you have questions on anything AP exam related, just want to let you know that I'm answering those questions every day on my Instagram stories. I'm getting tons of questions and I'm doing my best to answer them all. So if you have more questions, feel free to go follow me there, and I'd be happy to answer whatever you got. Second, if you want to have even more help, you can go over and join my Discord server. There's the link right there. There's so many incredible people on that server. I get in there too, but even if I'm not there, the people who are there are unbelievably helpful. So if you're struggling, that's the place to be. Lastly, in terms of announcements, I will be doing live content review sessions here. We're just practicing skills, trying to figure out how to do these questions. But if you're struggling to remember all the content, I'm just going to do a 3-night blitz over the whole AP World History curriculum. So that'll be May 7th, May 8th, and May 9th. Your exam, of course, is May 10th, and that'll be at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we will have some special guests coming along for the ride. So that should be fun. Now, if you're an A-Push, we're doing the same thing tomorrow night with A-Push questions. So you can join me there. Okay. Are you ready to jump in? I'm ready to jump in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to work through questions that are written by the College Board. So, there's going to be no question in your mind on, are these going to be the same kind of questions that we're going to see on the exam? Yes, they absolutely will. These are questions that are pulled from the course and exam description, which is the official publication that the College Board puts out. These are the official practice questions. And so I've chosen 10 of them out of 15 and tried to get sort of a broad range of time periods. So what I want to do is, I'm going to read through these. I'm going to read the stimulus, and I'm going to try to give you some tips along the way how I would do this. Remember, you have to answer 55 of these multiple choice questions in 55 minutes. So it's not a ton of time. And I'll just be honest with you guys. I am a slow thinker by nature. I'm not. When it comes to, processing thought, I am not a microwave. I am very much a crock pot. You just got to sit me there for 8 hours and let me cook the what do you put in a crock pot? Pork? Whatever. Point is, it takes me a long time to think through things. So I'm going to try to give you some tips on how to get faster with these things because it's just as much about knowing the content as it is about the skill of performing these quickly. Now, the last thing I'll say before we jump into the first question is this. I asked a bunch of teachers, I told them I was doing this, and I asked them, I've got a lot of students who are asking me, they're having a lot of trouble performing these tasks that they're being asked to perform on these questions in the amount of time given. Like, what advice would you give them? And by far, I think the best advice, and this is not revolutionary by any means, but listen to me. Like, crank that ear out and listen to this. The best advice that one of the teachers gave was this: know your content. You got to put in the paces. You got to study, baby. You have to do it. And that's absolutely right. A lot of people I've talked to, the reason why they're struggling with these is because they don't know the content as well. So if you put in the work to actually know the content, these things will get a lot faster. And I'm going to show you why as we go through. But for now, let's just go ahead and jump right in. So here we go. First multiple choice question. There's going to be three questions attached to this stimulus. So the very first thing that you always 100% want to do is you want to go down first and you want to read the attribution at the bottom. Where does this come from? That's going to tell you a lot of information you need to know. So first of all, the first thing I see is, okay, this is in circa 1250. That immediately puts me in the end. By the way, it's, we're talking about Hungary and Pope Innocent. So, okay, I'm in 13th century. I'm in Europe. Okay, that much I know, and that gives me quite a bit to work with right off the bat. Now, let's just read this real quick. It says, "To the Most Holy Father, the Pope, most of our kingdom of Hungary was reduced to a desert by the scourge of the Mongols' invasion. Now, we receive news every day that the Mongols have again unified their forces and will soon send their countless troops against all of Europe. We are afraid that we will be unable to withstand the Mongols' ferocity in battle unless the Pope is able to persuade other Christian rulers to send us aid to fortify our kingdom. When the Mongols invaded in 1241, we sent requests for military aid to the papacy, the Holy Roman Emperor, the King of France, and others. But from all of them, we only received words of support. We, for shame, resorted to inviting the pagan Cumans into our kingdom. If, God forbid, our kingdom fell to the Mongols, the door would be open for them to invade the other regions of the Catholic faith from the Hungarian steppes. So the people in our kingdom cannot cease to be amazed that you offer substantial help to the Christian territories overseas, which, if they were lost, would not harm the inhabitants of Europe more than if our kingdom fell." Okay, now, before I even get into this, and we're going to go through the other questions a little quicker, but for now, I just want to take a little bit of time so that you understand how I'm thinking about this, and then those principles will transfer to the other questions. So first of all, what I'm noticing here is, okay, this King Bela IV of Hungary, he needs help. He needs help because the Mongols are coming in to potentially overtake the Hungarian steppe. Here I see, okay, this king previously asked for help, but got none. And then in this paragraph, I see that despite the fact that the Hungarian king asked for help, the Pope is supporting Christian territories overseas. So yeah, whatever, that Christian territories overseas. So that's how this one stimulus breaks down. Now, let's look at this first question here. Now that we understand the stimulus, look at this. Which of the following features of Europe in the period circa 1200 to 1450 most directly contributed to the fact that the King of Hungary did not receive the military assistance that he requested in 1241 as mentioned in the third paragraph? Okay, stop for a second, because at this point, if you are in the exam and you see this question, and by the way, this is number one, maybe this is the first question you see, you're going to freak out. Why? Because you never learned about King Bela of Hungary. Like you never learned about the interaction of the Mongols and overtaking Hungary. Like that's not in the curriculum. Like you're going to freak out because did I forget something? No, you did not forget something. Just be aware that it is very possible, and I should say probable, that you're going to see things in questions that you've never heard of before. And that's not them asking you something that it's not like a trick where they like, let's get them. They're already stressed out. Now let's give them a heart attack and see how many of them we could kill. That's not what they're trying to do here. Let's read the question a little more carefully, because it actually doesn't matter if you know who this king is or not, because the question says, which of the following features of Europe in the period 1200 to 1450 most directly contributed to the fact that this king, who you've never heard of, didn't receive the military assistance that he requested in 1241, as mentioned in the third paragraph? So really what this question is trying to get you to do is talk about features of Europe and how they contributed to a situation like the one you're reading about. Okay, so so what I want to do is look at these answers, and I want to show you how I would pick the correct one. So first of all, A, the existence of numerous feudal states that were frequently in conflict with one another. B, the development of parliaments that could check royal authority. C, the growing political power of regional trade organizations such as the Hanseatic League. D, the religious divisions of Europe into Protestants and Catholics as the result of the Reformation. Okay, now, as I mentioned in that video I made on the multiple choice questions, there's always going to be four kinds of answers. Well, I should say three kinds of answers. There's going to be two wrong answers, like obviously wrong answers. There's going to be one distractor, which it seems pretty right, and then there's going to be the right answer. And so I want to point those out to you here. So first of all, the two obviously wrong answers are B and D. So let's talk about why. B is the development of parliaments that could check royal authority. Why is that wrong? That's wrong because that's a later development. It's not in the same time period. Develop, whatever, you get it. And that is often going to be the case in a wrong answer. It's going to be in the wrong time period. But then the other wrong answer is D, the religious divisions of Europe into Protestants and Catholics as a result of the Reformation. Again, Reformation, we're not in the same time period here. The Reformation comes in the next time period. It starts in 1517. So the whole reason why this is wrong is just it's in the wrong time period. So those are, if you know your stuff, you're going to look at these two answers and go, those are obviously wrong. So the right answer here is A. Hope you got that right. That's the right answer. That means the distractor is C. So let's look at C first. The growing political power of regional trade organizations such as the Hanseatic League. Now you're going to see Hanseatic League and you go like, I think I heard about that at some point in my class, and you're going to be like, maybe that's the right answer because it says something very specific that I kind of remember. But think about it. It's asking what features of Europe in this period contributed to the fact that the king couldn't get help from the Pope, couldn't get military help from the Pope regarding the invasion of the Mongols. Answer C is the growing political power of regional trade organizations such as the Hanseatic League. Now, it's true that the Hanseatic League did have some political power, but mainly what we're talking about with the Hanseatic League is let's go back to this, is economics. So that doesn't really have anything to do with the feature of Europe that caused this thing to happen right here. So the right answer is A. Okay, I hope that helps. I'm going to keep track of these comments and get to some of them after we get through this first set of questions. So that's how I would do that. Now, there's always going to be several questions based on one stimulus. So there's no difference here with regards to that. So let's look at it. So number 2, Bela IV's statement in the fourth paragraph that the Hungarian people cannot cease to be amazed by the actions of the papacy most directly refers to the papacy's failure to aid the Hungarians so what is going on? What is the Pope doing that is causing Bela IV to criticize, essentially, the Pope's activities here? Well, the two obviously wrong answers would be A. Well, I didn't even read the answers yet. So, statement in the fourth paragraph that the Hungarian people cannot cease to be amazed by the actions of the papacy most directly refers to the papacy's failure to aid Hungarians while sending missionaries to China. B. Supporting Christian conquest on the Iberian Peninsula. C. Initiating European military campaigns in the Middle East. Or D. Encouraging maritime exploration in the Indian Ocean. So A is definitely wrong. There's no sending missionaries to China has nothing to do with the features of Europe. Remember, or has nothing to do with this particular situation in terms of the Mongols invading. How are they going to defend themselves? That has nothing to do with missionaries in China. The other obviously wrong answer is D, encouraging maritime exploration in the Indian Ocean. Because while this is true, like towards the end of this period, European nations are going to start exploring and go into the Indian Ocean and get involved in that trade network. The stimulus says nothing about that. The stimulus explicitly mentions military aid. That's what the king of Hungary wants. He wants military aid. So it has nothing to do with exploration. It has nothing to do with trade networks in the Indian Ocean. So the correct answer in this case is C. Initiating European military campaigns, military campaigns in the Middle East. Now, let's look at the distractor here. Supporting Christian conquest in the Iberian Peninsula. Now, that's a clear reference to the Crusades, which are happening in this time period from 1200 to 1450. And this is the reason why it's a distractor, because it seems like it could be right. But here's why C is right and not what's the other letter that has the two humps? B. C is right because it's asking about the actions of the papacy, and it most directly refers to the papacy's failure to aid the Hungarians. So that little phrase right there, most directly, that is the scourge of every high school student, because it's like B is kind of right, but C is more right. So yeah, what we're talking about here in the European military campaigns in the Middle East, we're talking about, what do you call it? The Pope sending, encouraging Christian troops of various European nations to wait, hold on. Don't listen to me. What am I talking about here? This is dealing with the Crusades. I wrote that on the wrong one. Sorry. So yeah, this Christian conquest, this is happening. This kind of starts in like the 700s, but it really doesn't wrap up till 1492. So anyway, sorry, it's still C. I just was talking about the wrong answer there. So that's why. Just be careful when it says most directly. You're obviously going to have two wrong answers. One that looks kind of right, and it could be kind of right, but you're looking for the one that is more right. And I know it's terrible. Nobody wants that, but that's how it is. Okay, let's look at this third question, and then I'm going to look at some of these comments. So all of these statements are factually accurate, which is, it's like, oh my gosh. So all of these, A, B, C, and D, they're all factually accurate. Which would best explain Bela IV's reasoning for inviting the Cumans into Hungary as mentioned in the third paragraph. So his reasoning, let's remind ourselves in the third paragraph, and by the way, this little thing right here, they're counting as a paragraph. So this is the third paragraph. 1, 2, 3, 4. When the Mongols invaded in 1241, we sent requests for military aid to the papacy, the Holy Roman Emperor, the King of France, and others, but from all of them, we only received words of support. We, for shame, resorted to inviting the pagan Cumans into our kingdom. Okay, so they're looking for help from other European nations. They're not getting any, and so they invite these other folks in there. So why would they do that? Which would best explain Bela IV's reasoning for inviting the Cumans into Hungary, as mentioned in the third paragraph? Okay, so remember, these are all factually accurate. So let's look at A. Cumans had settled in Hungary and had been granted local autonomy. That is true. But think about this for a second. They settled in Hungary. They had been granted local autonomy. The question is asking why, which one of these is going to explain Bela IV's reasoning for inviting them to help out in defense against the Mongols. Now, does the fact that the Cumans settled in Hungary and been granted local autonomy have anything to do with defense against the Mongols? No, that has nothing to do. That is true, but irrelevant. Okay, next wrong answer. Or I should just say, let's go with the next answer. Cuman slave soldiers had become the rulers of the Mamluk Sultanate of Egypt. Now, again, that is factually true. But think about it for half a second. Does the fact that this group of people becoming the rulers of the Mamluk Sultanate in Egypt have anything to do with why the king of Hungary called them up to help defend against the Mongols? No, it doesn't have anything to do with it. Okay, next answer. Cumans were ethnic Turks who spoke a language intelligible to the Mongols. Okay, now that's interesting. That's interesting. So why did Bela IV invite the Cumans in to help out against the Mongols? Well, maybe it was because they spoke the same, well, not the same language, but at least a language intelligible to them. Maybe what they wanted was to have some diplomacy, with the Mongols. And the only way they could do that is to speak to them. Or maybe it's this one. Cumans were nomadic warriors and were familiar with the Mongols' military tactics. Now, let me ask you a question. Which one of those, we're working with C and D here, which one of those has anything to do with the Mongol invasion and needing defense? It is obviously and very clearly D, right? They're warriors and they understand how the Mongols fight. Now, remember, all these are true, but this one, even though they do speak a language intelligible to the Mongols, the stimulus doesn't say anything about the King of Hungary wanting to engage in any kind of diplomatic efforts with the Mongols. What they want is defense. Okay, that's the first three questions. Let me know before we move on to the next how we're doing over in the chat. How you feeling? What's happening in your sweet little brains right now? And am I going over this in a way that is making sense to you? Do you have any questions? Heimler's history. You should start a TikTok. I got one. And I wish I knew what it was right now. I think it's at Steve Heimler. Something like that. Let's see. I'll do it for you. Well, yeah, at Steve Heimler, right there. You can go follow that. All right. Good question. Where do I get these Oh, I clicked the wrong one, but thank you. I got them all right so far. Thank you. No, you're killing it. But somebody asked, and now I can't find it, where you get these questions. If you just go to Google, search for AP World History CED. That's going to give you the whole course and exam description. It's like 200 and something pages long, but there's a whole exam section, and it's toward the end. That's where all these are coming from. Okay. Okay, so yes, it makes sense, but these methods are impractical because of time constraints. Yes, that's absolutely right. So what I'm doing for you right now is trying to lay the foundation, and it's probably too late to lay a foundation. We got exam coming up quickly, but if you don't understand how to look at these things, you don't understand how they're put together, then none of this will make any sense. We can't get any faster if we don't start slow. So we're starting slow, and then I'm going to show you. In fact, I'm going to show you in this one how you can actually answer a question apart from the stimulus. No, you don't need to know these people. Like, they're not in the curriculum. I had never heard of them, or it's somewhere in the dark recesses of my memory, until I got these questions together today. I'm like, who? Yeah, like, so no, you don't need to know who these people are. That's the point. You just need to understand what the larger concept is that they're asking. Okay, let's go. Let's keep going. Now, this question, a lot of people ask me about how to work with visual stimuli. So let's look at this. And in this one, what I want you to do is, we're not even going to, okay, let me come back. Let me come back and talk to you for a second. One of the things that is great about really knowing the content is that when you see these stimuli and you see the years, you're immediately going to know, like, some of the things that are going on around it. You're immediately going to know the historical context. In some cases, like, for example, if you go to the bottom and you see that it's like a quotation from the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, you almost don't even need to read the stimulus to know what it's about. So knowing your stuff really helps you go faster. But let's go to this one. So here we have a navigational map. It's produced in 1489. You're going to compare it to another map that was produced in the early 1940s. Now, immediately, what you see here, it tells you everything. I mean, it's way too small to really get any understanding of the detail of it. But they tell you everything you need to know right here in this. It tells you a number of cities and places: Genoa, Venice, Paris, Muslim Emirate of Granada, Algiers, Cairo, Jerusalem, etc. These are all trade destinations, okay? And so what you see, I just want to point out a couple of things here. What you're seeing here is all of these trade destinations very well highlighted. You've got Damascus over here. You've got Northern Africa here. But the rest of it, over here is pretty well, and anything south of here, you don't see anything on. But then you get this map right here, and it's much more filled out. So you've got, all of Africa filled out. It's not quite accurate, but they were doing the best they could. All of these things still are accounted for in the map. And now you've got, like, this whole area down here that is included on the map as well. And the thing is, these maps only occur a couple of years from each other. So you got one in 1489 and then one in 1490. So or 1490s, early 1490s, it says. So that's all I want to do with that stimulus. Let's look at the question. Which of the following historical developments most strongly contributed to the map maker's depiction of West Africa and the southern half of the world in map 2? So this map right here. Which of the following historical developments most strongly contributed to the map maker's depiction? So why did this map maker draw this map the way that the map maker did? So A, Portugal's development of maritime technology and navigational skills. B, China's naval expeditions in the Indian Ocean basin. C, the limited geographical knowledge of Western European map makers as a result of the region's commercial isolation. Or D, the decline of Mediterranean powers such as Genoa and Venice and the rise of Atlantic powers such as England, France, and the Netherlands. So let me show you this real quick. Take a second. I'm going to give you a chance to answer this all on your very own. And the correct answer is A. Okay. Let's look at why. So remember, it's asking about West Africa here. Like, what's the difference to contribute to the map maker's depiction of West Africa and the southern half of the world? Because here in this one, we don't have the southern half of the world. Africa stops right here. You don't get Western Africa. Here you get all of Africa. So what contributed to that? Well, it's not China's naval expeditions into the Indian Ocean basin, because we're talking about, Italian map makers, right? We're talking about folks coming from Europe. So China's naval expeditions aren't going to help European map makers improved their maps. And then clearly, this one, if you just read it, this is the opposite of what the question is actually asking. Limited geographical knowledge of Western European map makers as a result of the region's commercial isolation. No. This first map right here is showing that the region is not commercially isolated, and so if it's not commercially isolated, this map is not going to happen. Okay, and then D, this is another example of something that happens later in the period, and slightly after as well. So there's another example of something that is wrong because it's in the wrong period. Okay, now let's look at this one. A historian will most likely use map 1 to research which of the following developments in the period 1450 to 1750. Now, this is an interesting question. Let's go back and look at map 1 again. Get rid of all my notations here. So this is map 1. And what would a historian likely use map 1 to research? A, efforts of wealthy Renaissance patrons to encourage the fine arts and scientific research. B, the ways that European cartography drew on earlier knowledge from the Islamic world and merchant activity in the Mediterranean. C, the influence of the Crusades against the Ottoman Empire on the commercial expansion of Italian city-states. And D, the consolidation of the Russian Empire, its expansion into Siberia, and its challenge to imperial China. Okay? You got the answer? What would a historian use the first map to research? The answer is B. Now, real quick, why isn't it A? The efforts of wealthy Renaissance patrons to encourage the fine arts and scientific research. Well, the two maps, the reason why a historian wouldn't use that map to talk about Renaissance patrons encouraging the fine arts is because these maps have very little to do with artistic endeavors. They are beautiful, but they're not mainly for artistic endeavors. They're mainly for the expansion of trade. So it can't be that one. C, it's not C, the influence of the Crusades against the Ottoman Empire on the commercial expansion of Italian states. They're referencing the European trade in the Levant, and that's not even represented. Look at this. That's not even represented on this map. The Levant is, right over here. It's not even represented on this map, so there's no reason why that would be the answer. And then D, the consolidation of the Russian Empire. I mean, what? No. This map is only talking about North Africa and Europe, at least, this part of Europe. Excuse me. So it can't be anything about the consolidation of the Russian Empire. Now I'm gonna keep looking at these comments, make sure I am getting everybody's questions answered. It's looking good so far. Okay, let's do one more. Which of the following factors would contribute most to future revisions of Map 2? A, Western Europeans' discovery of geographical scholarship from the Mongol Khanates. B, the experiences of European merchants transporting Asian goods in the Indian Ocean. C, Spanish sponsorship of transatlantic and transpacific maritime exploration. Or D, Qing China's resumption of maritime expeditions to expand its tribute system. Now, be careful with this one because it's saying which of the following factors would contribute most. Okay, that dreaded word, most, to future revisions of Map 2. There's going to be one answer in here that does contribute to it, but there's going to be another answer that contributes more to it. So you got to be careful with that. So the answer here is C. Now, the one that looks like it could be right is B. Experiences of European merchants transporting Asian goods in the Indian Ocean. Now, they did this, like European merchants did transport Asian goods in the Indian Ocean. That's absolutely true. And that did influence revisions in the maps. But did that contribute more to future revisions of the map than trans-Pacific and transatlantic maritime exploration? No, that was a much bigger deal. Getting involved in the Indian Ocean trade, in the Asian spice trade, all of those things, luxury goods, that was a big deal for Europe. But arguably, The much bigger deal was transatlantic trade that would go on to shape the world in potentially much greater ways. Okay, that's that set of questions. Let's come over here, get some comments. How are y'all feeling about those? What is is the way I'm explaining? Am I going too fast? Am I going too slow? Let me know. I just want to make sure. I'm here for you. So this is not. I don't sit around and do this for fun. So if I'm doing it for if I'm doing it in a way that makes sense to you, great. If not, let me know, because I would love to know. All right. We got. Oh man, you're gonna cry. Don't you worry about it. I got you. And yeah, I love you guys too. I do. Will you be able to? Oh, I just missed one. Something about will you be able to annotate on the test? Yeah, you will. But again, you don't have a ton of time to annotate. But if you're blowing through real quick, you definitely can. I would if I was taking it, for sure, because I need to write and see things, or else I'm a slow thinker. I got to write it down. Okay, let's see. And let's see. How much time do you recommend spend reading the passages? I always struggle with that. Okay, that's a great question, and I'm going to answer that and then jump into the next set. Remember, you've got 55 minutes to answer 55 questions. So there's two things you need to know about that. Number one, that roughly breaks down to 1 minute per question, but that also includes reading the stimulus. So if I go back to this one that we were just looking at, you've got one stimulus attached to 3 questions. Okay, so when I see that, I'm going to say, okay, I've got 3 minutes for this question total, and that includes interpreting the stimuli. In this case, the stimulus. So, but the thing is, that's technically what you have. The thing is, it's probably going to add more stress if you're there's a clock ticking in your head. It's going to be ticking anyway, but to further oh man, what did I start at the 3 or did I start at the 4? And I can't remember. That's going to be really, really stressful. So my advice is especially on the paper exam, just go just go at what feels like a quick pace. You on the paper exam, you can always go back. You can check them again. Get through them all if you can. Skip the ones that you're just I have no idea what that's talking about, and then come back and do those later. On the digital exam, can't skip them, can't go back. So in that case, my advice is opposite. Spend every second of that minute on that question that you can. Just making sure, just reading it, making sure, because once you go, you can't go back. So you might as well use all your time. You don't get any extra points for finishing quickly. Okay, let's keep going. And let's go. All right. Now let's go to this is the last. Let's see. No, we got one more. So here, no, we're not going to do this one. We're going to do this one. This is the last set of questions. All right. So you've got 2 sources here, and you see immediately these are coming from 1972, 1989. Okay, we're in the present, or roughly in the present, at least in AP World terms, we're in the present. Okay, source 1. First of all, this comes from this guy right here, chairman of Dow Chemical Company, a United States corporation. He's giving this speech before the White House conference on the industrial world ahead. And then I've got from 1989, something from the New York Times, president of the NCR Corporation, another United States technology company. Okay, so it sounds like we're going to be dealing with something that has to do with business in the modern world. Okay. I've long dreamed of buying an island owned by no nation whatsoever and of establishing the world headquarters of the Dow Company there on the truly neutral ground of such an island, beholden to no nation or society. If we were located on such truly neutral ground, we could then operate in the United States as U.S. citizens, in Japan as Japanese citizens, in Brazil as Brazilians, rather than being governed primarily by the laws of the United States. We could even pay any native workers handsomely to move elsewhere. That's so brazen. Whatever. Okay. Next stimulus. I was asked the other day about the United States competitiveness in the world economy. I replied that I don't think about it at all. We at NCR think of ourselves as a globally competitive company that happens to be headquartered in the United States. Okay, so both of these paragraphs have to do with U.S. Companies wanting to operate in a global fashion in different places. Okay, whether it's the first guy was talking about Japan, Brazil, etc. They want to get a neutral island; so they don't have to do anything. And the second one, they're talking about we want to see ourselves as a globally competitive company, not like a United States company, even though we're based here. No, we are a global company. Okay, so let's go here. The views expressed in the two passages were most directly enabled by which of the following economic trends in the late 20th century? A. Many of the, and remember, we're talking about these two passages most directly enabled by which economic trend? Okay. A. Many of the defeated countries in the Second World War received generous economic assistance from the United States after the war. B. Governments in newly independent post-colonial states sought to limit their country's economic reliance on the former colonial powers. C. The governments of many developed Western countries adopted policies of economic liberalization and deregulation. And D. Governments in Asia cooperated with private businesses in an effort to maximize exports and acquire foreign currencies from Europe and the United States. Okay, I know you can get this. I know you got it right. And I'm seeing a lot of C's in the comments. And the answer is C. Very good. Very good. So real quickly, it's not this one. I mean, that's talking about the Marshall Plan. But that was the United States offering aid to Western Europe. Has nothing to do with United States-based companies operating in a global economy. So that's obviously wrong. B, that yes, newly independent post-colonial states did seek to limit their country's economic reliance on former colonial powers. But what does that have to do with United States corporations doing business in a global economy? Nothing. And then I should probably not keep going through all these because you guys, most of you guys pretty much got it right. So, but the C is right because the passage is concerned with how can we operate with as little government interference as possible. That's what these two United States corporations are asking. And so that reflects countries adopting policies of economic liberalization and deregulation. Okay? All right, you ready? Last question. Get this one right. Get it right. I feel it in my bones. You're going to get it right. Don't put it in the chat, though. Don't put it in the chat. Get it right, and let's see. The corporate philosophy reflected in the two passages most directly contributed to which of the following? What did it cause? A, the inability of Soviet-planned economy to compete successfully with the economies of the United States and other Western countries. B, the shift of manufacturing capacity from post-industrial countries of the West to the new manufacturing centers of Asia and Latin America. C, the passage of stronger measures to safeguard workers' and consumers' rights in many developed countries, increased popular hostility toward economic migrants and migrations in many countries. Okay, I'm feeling it. Don't put it in the comments. Don't do it. Just breathe. And then the answer is B. Did you get it right? Did you get it? Okay, so it's talking about the corporate philosophy that these two quotes we're talking about. So what did that philosophy most directly contribute to? Well, it certainly wasn't the Soviet planned economy. By the period we're talking about, 1989, and kind of beginning in around this period, you've already got Gorbachev opening up the Soviet economy. So we're talking more like Stalin era here. That's the wrong period of time. C, it's definitely not C. Even though this happened, stronger measures to safeguard workers and consumers' rights were passed in many countries, but it's not as a result of this philosophy. Okay. And then finally, it can't be D. Yes, there was increased popular hostility toward economic migrants and migrations in many countries. It happened, but again, that's not a result of this corporate philosophy. It's a result of many other factors. So, okay, so that's the last question. Let's see how we're doing over here. Did you guys get a lot of those right? How does that feel? Like, okay, here's a good question. It's a tip to not picking out the distractor. Now, here's the thing. Since there's 4 answers, almost everybody is going to get these 2. I would say a majority of folks are going to get the 2 wrong answers. They're going to say, yeah, those are wrong. If you're going to get like probably the people who get 3s and 4s, they're probably going to pick the distractor, I don't know, a quarter of the time. People who get 5s are almost never going to pick the distractor. So it's just hard. I mean, you see, like, it's asking you, like, what is most like this, or what most caused this thing, and you just, in that case, you've got to know your material. Like, there's no other way for me to tell you that this is how there's no strategy to bypass actually knowing the material. So you've got, I don't know, 10 days ish, 11, 12 days. I don't know. I can't count. You can get this material down. You absolutely can. It's a lot. But if you're aiming for a 5, you can absolutely do it. Okay. Imagine, imagine that. How would you recommend taking an educated guess if you don't know the answer? Like, what would your thought process be? Well, okay. So first of all, I want to narrow it down to let's. I'm not sure if you're asking if you don't know, you can't eliminate anything. Then I'm going to read the questions. I'm going to read the answers very carefully, at least in the amount of time that I have. Oh, and by the way, before I get to this, this is something I didn't say on reading the stimulus quickly. They know that you only have a little bit of time to read this. Like, this is not something you're going to sit around, with your friends. Nobody does this, but people like me do this. Sit around with your friends and be like, wow, look, did you see that map? And like, look at the difference between these 2 maps. Isn't that amazing? Like, you're not going to sit around and have a conversation for 2 hours about it. They know you have to look at these quickly. So they're not looking for some sort of in-depth interpretation of this document, because that's just not realistic in the tight time frame that they give you. So just know that the interpretation that you get out of these stimuli should be relatively obvious. Okay, it's not going to be something that's deep hidden in there. No, it's going to be the most obvious interpretation of the stimulus. So don't work overly hard trying to understand it. Just take as much as you get, in a 30-second reading. That's about all you're going to have time for. So back to this. If you're taking an educated guess, yeah, I mean, I would make sure I understood the stimulus. Like, go back. If I look at the answers and I'm like, no idea, then I'm going to go back to the stimulus. Okay, what does this have to do with? Is this an economic thing? Is this a political thing, or is this have something to do with exploration or whatever? And then I'm just going to go look at is there any question that has to do with? Is there any answer that has anything to do with that? And I'm just going to choose that one. It may be right, it may be wrong, but if I have zero knowledge, I'm just going to try my best to connect the dots. That's going to happen sometimes. There's a lot of questions, there's a lot of material. All right, this is a popular question. How many can we get wrong and still get a 5? That changes every year, but historically, if you look at the data from the last 10 years or so, last year, not 2020, that year did not count for anything, but generally you can get something somewhere between like 72% to 76% right, and you're on your way to a 5 from there, which is people are like, what? That's like a C in my class. It's like, yeah, that's basically how it works. And then somewhere in the 60s ish, like mid to high 60s, you're on your way to a 4. Now, of course, you can do really well in the written section, bring that back up. That's fine, but those percentages I've found are a lot lower than most people expect. Okay. let's see. I want to make sure that we got about 5 minutes left here. All the Champa Rice members say was yes, Champa Rice, baby. That gang has been around for some time. I tell you what, good to see all of you guys. Okay, let's talk about this. Does the exam only cover up to chapter 19? My review book only goes to that. Well, I don't know what chapter 19 covers, but in your book, but the exam will go all the way through basically the present. And what they mean by the present, you probably not going to see almost anything after 2001. You may see something like in the multiple choice, maybe one question, maybe, but almost nothing after 2001. And let's see. Nope, man, these are going too fast. I can't hit them. Can't hit them in time. Oh, that's a good one. And it's gone. As soon as I read them, they're like, psh. Okay. What is the weight of each section? The DBQ, or excuse me, the multiple choice is 40%. I do this off the top of my head. I got to make sure I get all the percentages. Multiple choice, 40%. Short answer, this is the paper exam. Short answer is 20%. DBQ, 20. No. Okay, hold on. Just hold on. I got it right here for you. I should not guess. I should just tell you. It's one of those things. It's like, I know it's in there somewhere, but I can't access it at the moment. I do know multiple choice is 40%. Multiple choice 40%, short answer 20%, DBQ 25%, and long essay question 15%. So your biggest hitters are multiple choice, and biggest hitter is multiple choice. Second biggest hitter is the DBQ. Okay. Let's do one more question. What are your chances of doing well in the MCQ and not so good on the written? You can still get a 3 or 4. Well, I mean, my opinion on that is if you have if you do well on the multiple choice, it's probably because you know your content pretty well. You cannot do well on the multiple choice if you don't know the content. So if you do well on it, it's like, yeah, you know the content. When you get to the written section, and you know your content, but maybe you're shaky on the skills, you're like, how do I do the evidence where I connect the thing and the thesis? And you're still probably going to get more points than the average person. So, yeah, I think so. I mean, of course, we're talking about in total generalities here, but yeah, I mean, especially because multiple choice is much more weighted than the other sections. So yeah, but anyway, you guys are going to be fine. Like, don't worry about it. I mean, look, no, do worry some, because this is a big deal. Like, you know, it's a big deal. But don't let it ruin your life. Like, there are more important things than this exam. So before I leave you, let me just review what I said in order to get better at doing these questions. Number one, know your material. You've got between now and the exam, put in the time, put in the work. I promise you it will be worth it, because if you walk out of if you work as hard as you can, and you know you did, like deep in your jellies, you know you did, and you walk out of there with a low score, it's fine. You hold your head high. You did good. You did good. And this bald bearded man will be proud of you. Okay. And the second thing is, when you're trying to detect wrong answers, they're most likely going to be wrong because they're in the wrong period, or it's emphasizing the wrong thinking skill. Like, the question is asking you to talk about the cause of something, and the answer that's wrong is talking about the result of something, or, you know, whatever. So those are the big takeaways, I hope. And I hope that as you see these, as I've done them, it's giving you some confidence, because I believe in you guys. It's going to be just fine. We're going to have a little after party after everybody's exam, and you guys are going to breathe easy, and it's going to be great. And you're going to go on living your lives, and then you're going to go to college, or you're going to get a job, and then you're going to get married or not, or do whatever you're going to do with your life, and you're going to be happy. You're not going to even remember what this exam was about. You're not even going to remember what you got on this, but you're going to have a fine life, whatever happens on this exam. So that's all I have to say. Thank you so much for joining me here tonight, and stick around the channel. Still plenty more to come. We got live reviews next week. I'll see you there. All right. Good night.